Here with Sean Velasco and Alec Faulkner talking about Mina the Hollower. She hollows? Is that what's going on? Alec? Sean, what's going on with this mouse? She is someone who can dig holes. Is that right?
She's Mina the Hollower, and she can dig through the ground. Not unlike Shovel Knight, I suppose.
I was going to say.
She can dig even faster than she can walk. She can move quickly she like swims under the ground, which I would say is a little bit unlike Shovel Knight. She's very graceful in the ground.
Still, there's a theme there. When I first saw the game, I thought that looks a little bit like the playable Mole Knight from Shovel Knight Showdown, except with a lot of stuff turned up a notch in terms of the darkness and intensity, and yet the empowerment and the light that this character seems to have right off the cuff, right off the first blush, you could say. I was like, that character looks like she's going to be able to do more than I would have expected from an opening loadout of a video game character's capabilities. She's like dashing through the ground and then whipping, jumping. So I wanted to know about whether these were ideas that you already had percolating during the Shovel Knight days, or whether this was stuff that you had in a completely different stream of thought that eventually came to light and became this new game.
Sure. Well, actually, this one is more Alec's baby than mine. He produced this demo and brought it to us. So I guess I'll let him talk about it.
Yeah, I think that it's really the result of like a lot of things that were swimming around in our brains. I think us working on Showdown around the same time as we were thinking about where to go with this, maybe Mole Knight's digging mechanic did rub off on my brain a little bit, right? But overwhelmingly, just like everything that we make, I think the reason why something looks or feels the way that it does is just that's where we arrive when our train of design thought reaches the station, right? Shovel Knight, yeah, is also like a character about digging, but like the fact that similarity pops up is an accident. We swear. Those core mechanics just like made a lot of sense for a top-down game where it's difficult to judge height just in general. So flipping the platforming on its head instead of jumping up high up into the air, going deep into the ground, just made sense for the camera.
Right.
And
it's funny that thematically the games both have a lot of digging in them, but the way that the gameplay works out, it's not exactly.
They're like not exactly, even close.
It's more like a thematic consideration. Like we just really love digging, but that's like not true.
Yeah, I had to wonder because it's right there in front of me.
Twice could be a coincidence, right? If their next franchise is like thematically contextualized around digging, then like something's in the water at the Yacht Club or something.
At this point, I feel like we have to. It's like we're the digging company now.
Maybe, yeah.
That's so interesting. I want to dig into that. Oh,
maybe we just can't resist that kind of thing.
I want to find out a little bit more about that. If where the origins of this concept came from, and there's so many pieces of it that are thematically feel right in line with Shovel Knight. I think if you had replaced Mina with Shovel Knight and just called it Shovel Knight Top Down or The Legend of Shovel Knight or something, people would have been like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because it's very on brand for what you've done thus far, but it still feels very new. Just the fact that you see Mina's face felt totally new for Yacht Club to me. You published Cyber Shadow, Covered Face. You've made Pocket Dungeon. You're working on Shovel Knight Dig. A lot of covered faces with the Yacht Club. But this time, front and center, you see exactly who she is and how she's feeling about what she's doing via her facial expression. Strong, determined, serious,
Definitely.
Yet she's an adorable mouse. So there's a nice balance there. So I want to hear about that, designing the character and deciding to go really face forward this time with a new lead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that with the portraits also, like having portraits that change to facial expression, like a lot of, like in a Shantae game, all the characters will slide in and each time they'll have a different expression depending on if they're angry or sad or whatever. Yeah, it's weird having a character that's so emotive. But I think making something that was that felt different than Shovel Knight was important, right? Yeah, instead of making a big guy in armor, it's like a small mouse that can move around quickly.
I was going to say, I think it also made a lot of sense with just the direction that the game was heading in at that time as well. Like, if you're making a Game Boy game and the resolution's like even more limited than before, and the camera's like even further back, showing you like a bird's eye view of everything, then your ability to like stage things and to frame things and have characters that are emotive is just inherently a lot harder. So it helps if they actually have faces this time around.
Yeah, I feel like the portraits, which you've already got in there, as the gameplay's going on, there'll be a quick break and you'll get to talk to a character and see their face. It really is bringing out a lot already and transitioning your brain to seeing these characters as just little icons, basically, that are moving around in a very easy to parse screen, because it's so simple, to suddenly being brought to looking right at them and feeling a lot from them.
Yeah, that's the thing that we really wanted to do with Shovel Knight a lot, and that I think works about Shovel Knight is Shovel Knight can be all things to all people. Some people see him as like a badass, cool Dark Souls knight, and some people see him as like a chibi, cute Shovel Knight, like the ones in the instruction manual. When you play the NES style game, you can put your own spin on it and fill in those spots in your brain. And yeah, I think the same thing happens with Mina, right? And that's why we have so few opportunities to show you. I mean, we tried to take more of an emphasis. Like, we have this big opening scene in Mina the Hollower that shows her close up a lot, that shows her expression. Before every stage, there's a panorama that usually has a big piece of art. It's like, because you need to have something in your brain when you're looking at those tiny little images. But the more, it seems like, I don't know, it was just so, like in Final Fantasy IV, I remember it's like the portraits give you so much context, and that weird Amano art gives you so much context, and you're looking at the little sprites and you're imagining it as being this totally different thing. It just makes it feel even more bigger and expansive than it already is.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's this space in your brain between the static idea of who a character is and who their cute little moving sprite is. That space allows you to fill in so many of the blanks, as you said. And it's true of comic books too. The space between panels is actually where the action happens. This kind of
right
place in your head that you don't even realize is there is where so much of the action occurs. And I think that's particularly true of games that use this low resolution sprite style. And yet it feels totally new. You've written Sandy, one of your artists, I believe it was him who wrote this amazing write up on how the game's visuals are harkening back to the Game Boy Color, but also doing things the Game Boy Color would never have been capable of. Definitely. And I'm wondering, is that how you're planning to have the game really stand out? I mean, you're on Kickstarter, it's already been massively successful there, but the indie game market and the game market in general has never been more competitive. So how did you go about trying to approach how competitive it is these days compared to when Shovel Knight first debuted, and being able to keep up and really maintain with what's your next big game?
Well, I would say we've thought about that long and hard, and it's really, really difficult. And with Shovel Knight, all the stars aligned, and Kickstarter was hot right then. And it felt like the right game at the right time, and there was a great degree of luck involved in our success. And the future, who knows what's going to happen. Kickstarter is totally different now. The way that games are marketed had to completely change due to COVID. So we couldn't go to PAX. We couldn't basically advertise our game, right? That's what we do. We go to PAX and hang out, and thousands of people would get hands-on impressions. All of the media and other companies would come and check everything out, and that just couldn't exist anymore. How do you market the game? How do you, if we put it out, then it would go, we'd get one article, we announce it, let's say, we get one article on every platform or on every site, and then that would be it. We try to do updates or try to push it out. It's a tough one, I guess some of your options are you could try to go, you could try to like go on Xbox Game Pass or something like that and try to get them to like push your message, you know. But it's tough. That's why we decided to go to Kickstarter. But I feel like that's probably not the question you were actually asking.
Oh,
you were asking more about
actually...
like okay. I was wondering if it was more about like about making a game that stands out amongst the rest. I was talking about it more from like a marketing perspective.
Oh, that was actually my next question. So you pre-answered it, and Alex jumping in.
I'll jump in to post answer Sean's pre-question.
We'll reverse these.
And I think as far as making the game itself stand out, we're just going to keep on doing what we've always done, which is be beholden to our own ambitiously high standards in terms of like the quality of the game. Nothing gets shipped out the door unless everyone's happy about it, and everyone here at the Yacht Club is very opinionated, so that means if something does get out the door, then it's probably pretty bulletproof.
And I would say also having a thematic and emotional core has been really important for like all the games, but for this one too. And so I think that's something that's going to really stick with people, is like the horrorness and the creepiness and the weirdness. And we've like really been leaning into trying to be creative with being weird. I don't know, the way that like I remember when you played like the Dark Souls or Demon Souls for the first time, and there was just such fanciful monster designs, or at least to me, like the gaping dragon was this guy that had like this big giant gaping mouth, right? And you're like, whoa, this is a twist on something like I've never seen before. Yeah, something like that.
It sounds like you want to cash in on, and I'm sure you wouldn't put it that way, but you have bought a lot of goodwill over the years. You've instilled goodwill in your audience, who trusted you along the way with several iterations of Shovel Knight, and you've given them what they expected. The high bar, as Alec said, that you set early on, you've tried to maintain it or push it further. So you got them. So now you're like, now get ready for a mouse with a whip, and there's gonna be a plant with a mouth in its stomach, and it's gonna, who knows, and it's gonna make you a little uncomfortable. Which I have to guess, Alec, this is your first time directing a game at Yacht Club. You started as an intern, is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's gotta feel a little uncomfortable, a little spooky.
Yeah, it's a little. It's definitely strange. It's very humbling, I would say.
Like a little humble mouse, perhaps, Alec.
Maybe
who's just
maybe
doing her best she's been underneath the surface the whole time. Sean knows this about me. I psychoanalyze all the Yacht Club games. And find a way to make them line up with the personalities of the people that made it. And you started off as the little guy at the company, and now you're popping out of the dirt saying, here's my weird stuff. I hope you like it. And so far, so good. So how has that been emotionally to go from intern to director?
It's mostly just been like grappling with all of the added responsibility, right? It's like no longer my job to like surprise everyone around me with like with one task that I did real good. It's now my job to like look at everyone's tasks all the time and tell them they did a good job. So that's like totally new. But
or gently tell them, I like what you're trying to do here.
Right,
However,
and everything in between. Right?
Yeah. And I love that you said grappling, because does Mina ever swing from hook to hook grappling?
I think we gotta wait till Super Mina the Hollower.
That would be tough to do with top down, but it would have been nice to do it.
The other strange component about it is that like I came to Yacht Club because I liked Shovel Knight 1 like so much, right? And so sometimes it's like hard not to think like, if I hadn't like jumped in here and like commandeered the ship, right, and I just like stayed away and stayed as a fan, right, then like what would the second IP even look like? It would be something completely different that I'll like never ever get to play. So that's a weird thought, but that's another one that crosses my mind every once in a while.
So this is the kind of guy you are, Sean, and I've had the pleasure of knowing you for nearly a decade through interviews like this and seeing you at events and whatnot. Yeah. And you, I'm assuming, had something to do with the decision to put Alec in charge of this big new game?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course it was a group. It's always a group decision. But yeah, ever since Alec walked in the door of the Yacht Club, I was like, oh yeah, he's this one, there's something about this boy. So yeah, I mean, we've been working together, and Alec cut his teeth on Spectre of Torment, making really awesome levels. I mean, Alec came in working on or wanting to do like pixel art and being maybe being under Woz, and I was oh, here, let me grab you away here for a minute.
I remember like some of my first tasks were like making background art and Pride more, like doing like King Knight's like run animation when it was still like we're gonna make King Knight and Spectre Torment at the same time. Anyways, yeah, and then I remember just going to lunch with Sean and stuff and like arguing about Zelda 2 or whatever for like an hour. And it's like, seems like we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
it's truly living the dream for a lot of folks. It's a darling passing of the torch Cinderella story, passing of the Cinderella torch to a new queen.
I feel like now it's like we gotta be like the Xavier school, and like for gameplay centric action or like 2D people or something.
Wow.
I feel like we need to like collect those. People are becoming like more rare and few and far between. I'd say Alec was the first NES games you played were where?
They were part of like Animal Crossing. That was like my introduction to the NES, was like an Animal Crossing for GameCube. I would go into the basement of my like Animal Crossing house and then play all those NES games that you used to add to your save file by inputting codes from like the internet, or in my case, like Nintendo Power, like magazines at the grocery store or whatever. Anyways, in my Animal Crossing house, I had like Mario Brothers. I think you could even get like Zelda 1 on there.
You could, yeah. That was you had to input the code though. That was a
Land. That was my favorite. Yeah, they were all cheats.
Did you just say Clue Land was your favorite?
Dude, totally. With just like zero context and 50 NES games, right? Sometimes Clue Land's going to be your favorite.
Right. So it's like when you played Animal Crossing, you saw those games and you were like,
this is the fun part.
There's like something cool about these. This is the part, like of all the things I'm doing, there's like something about this that I need to like explore further. And you became an expert on that kind of stuff, like not as it was happening around you, like me and other people my age, but you were like a historian of this stuff almost, like as a kid. It puts you in a very unique position, a rare one, and one that I would say that it's pretty few and far between.
I think a lot of that context also has to do with the fact that like when I was going to like game design school, what was happening around me was like really, really not the kind of stuff that I work on nowadays, right? That was a time where like Journey had come out and people were like thinking about all sorts of like new types of expression and ways of making games that don't involve violence. VR was like hitting the scene. The Oculus, like, their Kickstarter was happening like when I showed up to college. So there was like so much like VR exploration, but I didn't see a lot of people focusing on like the fundamentals of classic game design, and I guess that just interested me the most.
Right.
Wow. Yes, the Yacht Club is a place where the people who were making the things that was never going to be AAA and are fascinated with these classic tropes like Clue Land. For those who don't know, you're a fish. I think you got hooks.
You're an anthropomorphized red ball with gloves and legs. No legs. That's why you have to use your arms to swim on the pole.
Only flippers.
Yeah. Your name's Bubbles. That's as much as I know about the lore of Clue Land. I don't think there's more to it than that.
Yeah. So it's the home of the Clue Land fans of our world, and there's not many of them. As Sean said, it's rare, and it's the kind of mind that can go on to use those same tools to make a game that's already extremely well received. People playing the demo, live streaming it. You've done a fantastic job at creating that expo feeling that Sean was talking about that you used to be able to get from PAX through streams, through social media. It's been so fun to watch it happen. I have a couple more questions. One was the fact that Sandy Gordon, one of your artists, fantastic person, known him since before he joined the Yacht Club, always been very impressed with his art. He's not here today because he's on vacation during the Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's right.
How did
Sandy is on vacation. I actually was like, wait a minute, Sandy's not here today. Wait, who's going to do the update? And we just all had to tag team it. And I mean, it worked out okay. And I went on vacation in the first week of the Kickstarter as soon as we launched it as well. So people have been able to take a little bit more of a break, hopefully. And that's something that we were not able to do so much during the original Kickstarter, but now we are able to do, that we strive to do.
And how have you approached that in the world of ever increasing crunch, greater competition, like we talked about, to make sure that your staff doesn't burn out?
Well, and it's hard. I think when you've got excited, creative people that want to work on things, they feel like they want to keep working on it and not go home. Also, when everyone around you is working on stuff, it's hard to be the one that's like, okay, I got to peel off and like take care of myself. So I think we have really just striven to have a culture of taking time off, of taking care of one another. And like I was saying earlier, we had this policy of having unlimited time off, which a lot of tech companies had in the 2000s up until now. But what we've found, and I think what a lot of companies found, is that when you have an unlimited time off policy, but you don't specify the times that everyone should take off, then they don't take it. So like, bank holidays or whatever, it's like, oh, President's Day, are we taking it off? It's like, well, you can if you want. Well, who's going to do that? Who would take it? So now we've been trying to actually force people and say, okay, you got to put your week or put your 2 weeks in the calendar. You got to take a certain amount of days off. I'm taking 30 to 40 days off a week or a year, so everyone, not a week. So everyone should be doing that too.
Wow.
And still, I would say that's it's still tough with COVID. It's been tough. People are going crazy a little bit. It's hard that you can't all be in the same room and chatting with one another. It's so much easier to have miscommunication happen. And we've, everyone's been struggling, but we've just been trying to work through it and trying to take care of everyone. Yeah, it's been tough.
I bet it has been. And you've done a lot throughout it, and it sounds like you're keeping your staff as happy as anybody could. I'm guessing when people hear unlimited time off and forced time off, led by the boss who says, yep, I'm going to take 30 days off this week. This is such a fun way of, I know it's misspeaking, but it speaks to like, we're going all out. You do not feel ashamed about taking time off at this tech company. That is a rare thing indeed. You're going to be getting the resumes whenever you want them. I'm certain of.
We want them. Please. we really need people right now. So
yeah, well, you're definitely going to get them. I'm certain of that. A couple more questions. Thanks so much for giving me all this time in the midst again of your Kickstarter about to wrap.
No, our pleasure.
Of course.
It's kind of you to say. Shovel Knight, I think, has appeared in over 100 games. Do you think?
What? 100?
Maybe.
We said it's definitely over 50 cameos. We know that we know that it's over 50 because we counted them all.
But they keep coming. I mean, now Dig is out. Cyber Shadow has a little Shovel Knight fairy. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if it's quite 50, but
I'm sure we will get there. If we're not there already,
we'll get to 100.
We'll get to 100. Do you think Shovel Knight has a place in Mina's world, or is it too soon to crowd Mina with any kind of cameo from the Shovel Knight world?
I think it's too soon. I mean, like, never say never, obviously, but I think there's a lot more value that we would get right now out of like communicating to people. No, this is like its own thing. This is like a new property. This is like a new world that you should be thinking about. If you see Shovel Knight pop up there in a screenshot, you know, you might think, oh, there's prior reading that I have to do before I can engage with this work. You know, like we should endeavor to try and make these two games separate with no connecting threads between them, and so far anyways that's been the our mode of thinking.
That makes a lot of sense. I do hope to see, though, just to let you know as a fan, I would love to see just one mouse with a propeller, and it doesn't have to be done in the same style. Just let us know that, you know, we're thinking about it, and maybe
a wink or a nod here or there. Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe a hawk with a beret. I already asked Sean about that. See if that ever happens. And last up, how are you feeling now that it's almost over? The Kickstarter you've been planning for so long, about to wrap up.
A little exhausted, but a lot excited. There's, you know, when you're working on the Kickstarter, it's hard to work on things that aren't just like the Kickstarter or things required by it, doing interviews such as this one, or like getting those updates out or whatever. So
all those other games that we need your feedback on.
Yeah, the idea of actually like having a normal week of work after this crazy month is really exciting to me.
Yeah, it's been super thrilling. It's so cool to see all of the reactions. I mean, just like Shovel Knight, I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's so cool to see all the reactions of what everyone, of all the stuff that we've been working on for such a long time. And it's cool when people see that art, and it's cool when people feel like they can already play in that universe. That's the part that I like. One of the things I like the most about Shovel Knight, and hopefully about Mina as well, is that we're gonna make a big weird universe that you could think about in your brain, and it should be easy to extrapolate other weird, unique things that could go into it that you made up from your own imagination. So that part's exciting, and sharing all that with everybody is going to be really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. The fan art is coming in. I check it myself regularly just because I'm such a fan of the character. I'm going to try to draw my own fan art at some point, maybe stick it in a Nintendo Force comic or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope.
That'd be fun for me, but it's going to be tough to do justice to the thing you've already started, but we'll do our best. Well, thank you so much, Alec and Sean, for being on. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. Thank you. It's always good talking to you.
Likewise.